You can't be autistic. You give eye contact. You cannot be autistic. You have a sense of style. You cannot be autistic. You live a really normal life. I'm not even lying to you guys. These are actual phrases that I have heard when I have told people in my life that I'm autistic. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Elena and I was diagnosed with autism at age 25. And since getting the diagnosis, I'm now faced with this sometimes uncomfortable situation where I need to let people know that this is the reality of my brain. The reason that this can sometimes be an uncomfortable and awkward thing for me to share, it's not because I should be ashamed of my brain itself. It's because most of the time, like 90% of the time, the people that I'm telling had no idea beforehand that there was even an inkling that I was autistic. In fact, right now, at this point in my life, I'm currently job hunting and I'm in this kind of tricky situation where I need to weigh up whether I tell the employers that I'm autistic and could possibly face judgment and discrimination, and then subsequently not getting the job, or do I not share with them, get the job, and risk burnout after 6 to 12 months because I've been masking the entire time. The reality is, because I don't look autistic to the world, it's up to me to communicate to everybody and risk their judgment. In fact, I'm sure that a lot of you guys could actually relate to my experiences on this. When I've told people that I'm autistic, oftentimes it's met with confusion, or maybe it's almost embarrassment because maybe they feel as though they should have picked it up beforehand, or maybe they don't know anything about autism. So maybe they've got this blank stare when I tell them, like they have no idea what that means. But with a lot of the responses, they try to some degree to make me feel better and remind me that everyone's just on the spectrum in some way. Everybody on this planet may be able to read the symptoms of autism and be able to find some correlation to their own brain. But what makes a brain neurodivergent or autistic is the severity in which these symptoms present and how they impact the individual's life. Maybe you guys know, or maybe you don't. I am somebody who is definitely trying to get involved in the autism world because I truly do feel with my entire being that this is where I'm meant to be, that this is what I was put on this earth for, that this is what all those years, those 25 years of struggle were for. That's what I'm creating this content for, is to allow people to hear and resonate with my experiences, and that's what I have been finding. And amongst trying to, I guess, build a career in the autism world, I've really had to understand who are the people that I am trying to connect with in all of this, in my words, in my storytelling. And I think that's changed over the course of the last few months. But recently, I've realized that the people that I am trying to connect with are those that still feel, even with a diagnosis or even coming to terms with the fact that they could possibly be autistic, they still feel as though they don't fit in. What I mean by this is, before you get diagnosed or before you come to the realization that autism is a thing, you go through your life feeling like an alien, feeling as though you've missed out on the handbook that everybody else got. And then you stumble across autism or you get a diagnosis, and then all of a sudden it makes so much sense and you realize that you're not as fucking crazy as you thought you could be. And so then you start, as the years go on, after coming to this realization, you start to kind of unpack your life and you start to involve yourself in a bit more of a neurodivergent community. Or at the very least, you start educating yourself online and you start to see other people who also have the same thing that you have. And in my experience, what I've found is that I am struggling to relate to a lot of people who are autistic. And a lot of the content now that calls for inclusion and accessibility for hidden disabilities, the kind of autistic people that are portrayed in these photographs or in these movies, in these books, in the media, are very bold and colorful, just extremely loud and proud to be themselves. And I love that. I love seeing that. I am absolutely in no way hating on that. I think it's incredible. The problem is in my case is that's still not me. I'm not this loud, proud, colorful kind of person. In fact, I'm probably the plain Jane of the autism world, where you can't really gauge much about me, and I'm extremely shy and introverted. I don't see that often presented now in anything, the plain Jane. So now I still don't quite fit the mold of the neurotypical expectation. I made this reel a few months ago now. It was really just trying to find out if this was kind of normal feeling within the neurodivergent world, and I've come to learn that it is, and that's extremely exciting for me. And these are the kinds of people that I really want to connect with. I'm sure that there have been points in time where I've met people and they think that I'm faking being autistic, or they believe that I really need to have a label in order to feel like I fit in with the rest of the world, because that is something that I've heard, older people saying, oh, young people these days just need to have a label to fit in. It's like, this label actually saved my life, hun. But the funny thing is, although to these people, most of the time I think I look like them living in a neurotypical world, the reality is I'm actually masking my neurodivergent brain to look neurotypical. And they just can't see that because they can't see into my brain. If somebody has a prior notion of what autism is and they themselves are not autistic, most of the time this idea comes under the very typical autistic traits. The individual is often diagnosed as a toddler or a child. Parents were no doubt alerted to the differences in the child with their perhaps delayed speech, non-verbal communication, repetitive behavior or avoidance of touch. The child no doubt had big outbursts, self-harming behavior. The child probably struggled to transition between activities and tasks. The child no doubt found a change of routine or environment deeply troubling. The funny thing is that this is the typical autistic traits of a child. And I've related to a lot of these, but I think where things go a little bit different and why I don't present in these ways the typical autistic traits anymore is, for one, I'm a female, and females, there's often this heavy burden from society that you've got to shape up and catch up with everybody else, whereas I think boys are often given a lot more leeway. But also, because I wasn't given a diagnosis as a child, it meant that there were no answers. So there was no reason for me to be having these issues. So I just had to get on with it in order to survive. So how does autism show up in my life now as a 28-year-old woman? Well, although I'm not naturally a very sociable person, I think that I do a really good job at imitating and masking sociable behavior. In fact, I've been told that I am one of the best maskers that friends have ever seen, because I can mask neurotypical behavior to a T. I was not overly clever at school. I think that I was kind of just sitting where everybody else was. I wasn't under, I wasn't above everybody. I was just, coasting along nicely. I love routine, and this has been present since the day I was born. But what routine actually allows me to do is it allows me to pave the way for a successful career, meaningful relationships, and honestly, a meaningful life. I live a very, very privileged and meaningful life. Although I struggle hugely with sensory overload, I think that I have crafted huge coping mechanisms that allow me to go into these situations. Although I might hate it, although I might struggle, I can come across just as anybody else does. I am also somebody that actively tries to improve myself. I have great self-awareness. I acknowledge my strengths, I acknowledge my challenges, and I'm always striving to do better, to learn more, to be a better person, be a better version of myself. And despite the misconceptions and the stereotypes, I do have deep empathy for people. And this is why, my friends, I do not look autistic. I guess the point of this video for me was to really cater to those of us on the spectrum who are struggling to find their place in the world, where they fit in, whether that's with neurotypicals, whether it's not. I really just want to cater to those of us who honestly are the plain Janes. Overall, I think when you don't look autistic to the world, the most important relationship that you can have is with yourself, and trusting yourself, trusting your emotions, trusting your sensory overwhelm, and knowing that when you need to get out of a situation, when you need to share the autism diagnosis with somebody, just trust in yourself. Trust that you know what's best for you, because nobody fucking else can say anything. No one knows the struggles that you go through on a daily basis. That's all I've got to say today. I just really hope that this resonates with just one person, because it was just something that I've been sitting with for a while now. But thank you guys so much for watching this video. If you would like to connect with me, if you would like to watch more of my content, I will leave my other social medias down below, and I hope you have a wonderful day or night wherever you are in the world, and I'll talk to you soon. Bye.